Hey everybody, it's me, Keto-ish Queen. I am here today with a special guest. Her name's Ashley Toye. She also goes by Ashley Pantry. You can find her on Instagram that way. She's got an ebook. She's got like a wealth of knowledge and resources. She actually has a master's in nutrition. Her story is really awesome. You can hear more about that if you look at our other video we did. It was about why ingredients matter on keto, but in general. So I'll link that somewhere. But today we are going to talk about vitamins, everything you need to know about vitamins, why you need vitamins, what kind of quality of vitamins, what kind of vitamins. It's going to be kind of a little bit of everything to get you guys started. If you're not taking vitamins, to add some extra information if you are. And then later on, we will do some extra videos about specific things like vitamins for energy, stress, etc., etc. So request things as you guys need it, comment questions below, and we are here to support you guys on your journey to feel better and happier and healthier. So welcome, Ashley.
Thank you. Vitamins, it's a very broad topic, as you know. It's something that I can't sit here and prescribe a certain vitamin to anybody because I don't know exactly what their background is. I don't know what medications they're on or anything like that, but we're really going to try to keep this simple so it does work for the majority of people, and just that general knowledge about vitamin quality and why we do need them. So the biggest thing is, what your audience and most people do know, is that we all need macronutrients, and macronutrients are the protein, carbohydrates, and fats that are in food, and they give us the energy that we need throughout the day. What we also need in addition to that are micronutrients, and those are what your body needs in smaller amounts, which are commonly referred to as vitamins and minerals, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So there's actually 40 essential micronutrients that we need to maintain good health. And when I say essential, it means that this is something that we absolutely need to get from food, or we can't get it at all. Our body can't possibly make it. I often refer to this analogy of building a house, for example. So to build a house, we need a foundation with concrete, and we need a frame, which could be wood or bricks. We also need a roof, and we need windows. And then there's all the things in the interior that are nice to have, but not absolutely necessary. And the necessary things are the frame of the house, the foundation of it, and those would be those essential nutrients. So if, for example, we are building this house, we have the frame, the concrete, we have the roof, but we're missing the windows, well, over time, the house is not going to function properly. It's going to break down. There's going to be signs of damage and wear, and that will affect things in our bodies, such as inflammation, disease. It's going to just make us more susceptible to illness overall. So that's something to be aware of, because a lot of people think, oh, I just get everything I need from food, but our food is in fact way less nutrient dense than it once was. If we look back to the 1900s, early 1900s, there was actually a study done recently where they compared an orange that we once ate at that time to oranges of where they are today. And for us to get the same amount of nutrients from that one orange that we once ate back in the day, we need to eat 8 of those. So that reflects in so many different things with the way that our food is being processed. There's genetically modified foods, there's soil depletion, there's the supply chain issue where the fruit is being picked, or the vegetable, it's then being put on a truck, it sits on the truck, it's exposed to heat, oxygen, air, all of that. And then it gets all the way up to Canada here, where it's going to be put in the grocery store shelf, and then it's going to sit there for a couple days, and we go and pick our vegetables, and then we take them home. And every single hour that that vegetable is, or fruit is just sitting and not being consumed, it's losing nutrients, it's losing them all the time, every single hour. There's actually a study done that Journal of Food Science and Agriculture, and it said that vegetables lose 15 to 77% of their vitamin C content within 1 week of harvest. And 90% of vitamin C from spinach is lost within 24 hours after it's being harvested. So those are just some things to keep in mind, like just to be aware that not everything that we're getting is what it seems. And again, there's just a lot of depletion going on these days with the nutrients. So unfortunately, yes, I'd love to say that we could get everything we possibly need from food, but it's just not the case unless you're a person who eats traditional foods. Like, do you eat grass-fed, pasture-raised protein sources? Do you eat fermented foods from scratch? Do you eat organ meats? Do you have bone broth regularly? Do you have unpasteurized raw dairy? Like, all of these things are what our ancestors ate and how we were, how we evolved to digest and absorb food and micronutrients. And we've completely destroyed this pattern. And now we're in the place that we are today. So, like, one thing I'm sure you could answer this, like, how many healthy people do you know that aren't on a pharmaceutical medication, that don't have a skin condition, that don't have an inflammatory issue or an autoimmune disease? Like, how many do you really know?
It's not very many.
No.
So I work with people, and there's a lot of people that aren't too well these days, and lots of patients. So it'd be great if we could prevent that, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it? Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, we don't realize actually how bad things are with us. And most every single client that's ever come my way has had an issue or several, or they're on pharmaceutical medications. And 70% of the population is on a pharmaceutical right now. So we are not healthy. We're less healthy than we've ever been. And to keep in mind also that these pharmaceuticals prevent nutrient absorption. They block it, or they can also increase it, which can be dangerous with certain vitamins and minerals as well. So that's something that often we're not told when we go to the doctor and they're quickly writing these prescriptions, right? They're not telling us these things. So that's something also to keep in mind, that it's not just the food, it's also the medications, stress, lack of sleep, lack of exercise. Those are all things that play into this as well. What we're getting at here, obviously, is that it is important to consider taking a high quality multivitamin at the very least. And that would be something more than what you're getting from a drugstore. So I like to say, like, a drugstore is a place for drugs, not health food supplements. And a health food store is a place to get healthy, whole, natural supplements. And the biggest mistake people are making these days, I think, is they're going to, the local Shoppers Drug Mart, or they're going to Walmart, or they're going to Superstore, and they're getting the store brand multivitamin, or they're getting something like a Centrum vitamin. Centrum, I would say, if you have it in your cupboard, you're better off just flushing it down the toilet. It is not a good quality supplement at all. There are so many synthetic ingredients in there. And not only are the ingredients synthetic, that they're trying to mimic minerals and vitamins and all of that, it's also that they're adding dyes. They're adding very harmful dyes that are banned in other countries. They're adding fillers that are toxic. And it ends up being something that is actually a chemical cocktail more than it is a high quality vitamin. The other thing to mention there is that 1-a-day vitamins don't actually absorb, and they're not effective. You can't get everything you need in one dose and one capsule. And I think that a lot of these companies nowadays, they're trying to cater to people who don't like to take pills or be called a pill popper, right? And they're trying to make them tiny and small, or micro-sized little gels, just so that people will eat them and swallow them. But the problem with that is you can't actually get what you need in there. And the process that it takes to break down these nutrients and make them into this compact form, it's not going to absorb properly. And the other thing is that a lot of these nutrients, specifically B vitamins and C, like, they only last in your system for 4 hours. So after that 4 hours, you're out of them, and that's it. So that's why it's really important to look for a vitamin that has multiple doses a day. And I know that scares a lot of people. They're like, I don't want to take things, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But when the bottle says take 6 a day, that's actually a good sign. That means that it is higher quality. It means that they're trying to guide you into taking it throughout the day versus 1 a day. And that way you're going to absorb the nutrients much better. And having 6 capsules, for instance, you can put way more into those capsules. The ingredients are higher quality. And again, breaking it down into smaller doses means that you will absorb those a lot easier than just that one time a day. Again, when we're talking about stress and sleep and what's going on in your day, what you're eating, all of that affects what you're absorbing in your vitamins, every single one of those. So if something's off, or you've had just a meal that's a bit different, like, any of that can factor in. So giving it one shot every day with a 1 a day is just not worth it to me. And it's often just a very poor quality choice.
Yeah, and I've seen some studies of, like, where they put like a pill in a glass of water and try and mimic stomach acid. Some of those one-a-days or cheaper vitamins, you think you're saving money, but you're not, because maybe you're not absorbing it, or like you said, it's like a chemical cocktail. So I have one of these things that comes in like a case. It's from Amazon, and it's like Monday, and then there's morning, afternoon, evening. So like you said, it's often better to take multiple things per day, or like Maltese where it comes in a little pack. And this is like kind of like a one a day, but as you see, it's like 6 pills, because you can't do really a one a day. It just doesn't make sense. You can't fit all of the nutrients you need into one little capsule. It doesn't work.
Exactly. So, yeah. And I have those same ones as well. Like they come in this, they call it like a strip pack, right? And it's designed that each day you take all of these. I would say even this does check a lot of boxes, but it's still very minimal compared to what we actually really need. And if we're deficient in something, this isn't going to necessarily cut it, but it is a good place to start for sure. A good place to just have that nice foundation. And the other thing to mention while we're talking about the cheaper quality ones, I would say the 2 ingredients, maybe even 3 actually, that you should look out for when you're buying them. Like all you need to do is flip over the bottle and look at the form of, I would say, look at magnesium and look at calcium. So if calcium is in the form of carbonate and magnesium is in the form of oxide, typically that means that they've gone more of that synthetic route and the forms just aren't as absorbable. So I often look at those 2 things. There's other ones you can look at, like we were talking earlier about folic acid and folate. So if they're putting folic acid in there, if they're putting iron in this, is it ferrous fumarate, I think it's called. That's also a very poor quality iron that causes constipation. It causes a bunch of issues. That's what's found in Centrum. That's what's found in those cheap one-a-day ones. So when they're going with those very poor quality ingredients, you can actually end up getting these horrible symptoms such as constipation or dizziness or nausea. When I say synthetic, what that means is that it's not a food-based supplement. It's not something our body actually recognizes. It's not a form that our body naturally produces. So we're kind of like reacting to it, right? We're not knowing, our body doesn't know what to do with it. So that's something to keep in mind. And those are, I would say, the 3 ingredients maybe to try to look for to make sure that you're getting something of quality. But when I say whole food based multivitamin, that means that they're taking the ingredients from food directly, or they're trying to break down those ingredients and they're putting it into a pill. Some companies make it's like a broth, almost like a stew of all these things that are whole food. And then they do sometimes often add some synthetic ones in there to make up for what's lacking, but it's a better option. And if you're willing to spend, I would say at least $30 to $40 a month, that's going to get you a pretty good quality multivitamin. It's comes down to you get what you pay for. If you're not willing to spend the money, if you're only willing to spend $15, I honestly would say just don't bother. It wouldn't be worth it.
And then you'll pay for it later in other ways, because
you will pay for it later. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
You're not getting enough vitamins, right?
Yeah. And a question that I often get to is if you're deficient in a specific nutrient, if it's been a diagnosed deficiency, is that something that can be corrected with a multivitamin? And I would say the answer is no. A multivitamin is designed to give you a nice baseline, a good foundation, and it's good for maintenance. And by maintenance, meaning maintaining a level that's already adequate. So you can't take a multivitamin and think that you're going to correct your vitamin B12 deficiency or your iron deficiency or your zinc deficiency. It's never going to be enough. So that's when you need to target those individual supplements, such as an iron supplement on its own, such as a vitamin A supplement on its own, those types of things, because you'll never get enough of what you need. And so that's another topic, of course, and that's where it's more individualized about about these individual nutrients and how to take those. But I would say, as a rule of thumb too, we all have access to Google. We can Google if there is a deficiency. If your doctor said, okay, this is an issue, or your naturopath said this is an issue, go on Google and Google what is the most bioavailable form of iron? What is the most bioavailable form of vitamin C or of magnesium? And when you see the same thing over and over again, you know, okay, that's what I need to look for when I go to buy the supplement. But bioavailable is what you always want to look for, because that means that your body knows what to do with it. It means it's a form that it recognizes and it can be absorbed. So again, like supplements, it's a, you know, multi-billion dollar industry, and there's so much out there that's designed to mislead you. And the label, don't always believe what the label says. It's the same thing with food. You have to always read the ingredients. Don't trust what that label says. It's designed to lure you in. Fancy packaging, bright packaging, it doesn't matter. You need to do your own research on that. And especially if there's a deficiency, that's when you definitely need to do your homework. So that was something I just wanted to point out.
I think that's great. And I've experienced that too, where I, back in the day, had low iron, was taking an iron supplement, felt like garbage. And thank goodness I did my homework, because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't feel good on these vitamins, I'm not going to take them. Because you can feel a little bit yucky if you're not taking it with food, or if it's not good quality, like she's saying. And then I found a whole food liquid one, and it made me feel great and helped me deal with my deficiency. So glad I didn't give up on that. But that's one thing I notice with people is they think, oh, I don't need a vitamin, or, oh, I didn't notice difference, or, oh, I didn't feel good, or I hate swallowing pills. But it's worth it to find something that works for you, that's going to make you feel better eventually.
Yeah. And like we had talked about before too, that instant gratification, that's something that we're not going to get with a vitamin. You're not going to take, you know, your little vitamin strip pack and immediately, oh, I'm a whole new human being, or I am no longer going to get sick, or I have so much energy. And people want that. They want that feeling, and they want that instant gratification yesterday, typically. So that's one thing to be aware of. Like this whole idea of taking supplements and vitamins, good quality ones, it's not to make you feel immediately different. And it's not, you're not often going to. And that's, again, what you were saying, like, oh, I don't feel any different when I take them. Well, that's why, because you're not actually going to right away, but it does take that consistency. So after, usually I would say the 4 to 6 week mark is when you might start to notice a change. You'll notice your nails are going to get stronger. Your hair is a little bit shinier. Your joints are a little bit less inflamed. Maybe you're digesting your food better. There's so many things, but it will not happen overnight. And that's something that you just need to be aware of. I will not promise you that you'll feel amazing within the first week even, but it does take consistency. And it's the same idea as an insurance policy. It's there when you know, it's there for a reason, but it's not going to give you anything immediate. But consistency does take time. It will pay off over time. But all of these foundational supplements and essential nutrients particularly are that insurance policy for you, which I think is a lot better than ordering, you know, a subscription box of beauty products or buying junk on Amazon. Like this is all part of, we can afford this because I see every day people are spending money on crap that they don't need, and they claim they don't have money, but you still see them, you know, with the latest handbag or whatever, or the latest iPhone, right? And you do have the money, you just need to prioritize it. So I would even say if you allowed $80 a month, or, you know, something along those lines, like that can get you a pretty good multivitamin. It can get you a decent fish oil, which is something that we'll talk about as well. But just those nice foundational supplements to help just boost what we're not getting from our food, because we're just not getting it. I've never met one person that's doing everything possible to gain, you know, their most optimal health. It's just through food. It just won't happen. I did write down a couple of questions here that people have asked on like social media and all that about this topic. So the first one is, oh, what if I just don't like taking pills? And that's off. I get that all the time, or people think, oh, I refuse to take pills because I think pills are associated with pharmaceuticals and they're against it. I totally understand that. And the great news is that we have so many options now with how to take supplements, right? We don't have to take it in a pill. So if you're like really against that, that's okay. And I do have some examples here. So if you even take something like collagen, for example, collagen, we all know, comes in like a powder form, right? That's pretty easy. And it's, people often put in their food, but some people just don't like the taste of it, or they don't want to take it that way. So then you can go to the direction of pills if you want. You can take collagen in a tablet form. That's an available option. And there are people out there who absolutely love taking pills. They'd rather take pills any day than they would powders. So that's nice to see. And then there's also like the little like collagen sticks that you can take. So right here, I don't even have all these options. This is just what I have in my house, but there's 3 examples right there of different ways that you could take collagen, for example. And then there's also greens powders, which I do like them. And I do like, there's certain brands I don't like, but for the most part, greens powders are a nice way to complement a multivitamin. And again, back to that whole food idea of getting our nutrients. This is a closer way to get that. It's not going to be the exact same nutrient composition as freshly picked kale or spinach, but it's going to be relatively close. You're still going to, I'd say, absorb at least 50% of what that vegetable or fruit originally had. And you're also minimizing the amount of sugar that you're getting, because as you preach and I do, sugar is an issue, and we don't need to have 10 to 12 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, particularly fruits. That's, I think, a huge issue where people are over consuming fruit. They're getting way too much sugar. And if they're doing that to try to prevent illness, that sugar is actually compromising your immune system. Again, we'll talk about that one another day. But greens powders is another example of something that you may not like the taste of it. And that's okay, because if you don't, like, these are 2 powder forms that I've bought recently. This one I would say is a little bit higher quality than this one. This one you can get at Costco. But if you don't like that option, there's ways to get it in a pill form. So these are actually greens powders in a pill form. But that you'll notice that this dose is 10 capsules a day. And so is this one. I think it might actually be, it's 8. So that's a lot of pills. But if you prefer that method, if you don't like the taste, you can go that route. So we're really blessed with these options, I would say, because back in the day, we didn't have this. We didn't even have these powders. We only had tablets and pills. And if you couldn't swallow it, well, too bad, right? Probiotics are the same way. So they have capsules you can take. You can also take a powder if you prefer that. And there's also liquid. So this one's a refrigerated one, but I do actually really like this brand. It's the cultured coconut. So it's very high in the good bacteria, and a little amount goes a long way. So what I'm getting at here is there is an option for everyone. And if you don't like pills, you don't like powders, you don't like liquid, well, find another one. And they do exist. So the other question that I get to is, oh, vitamins make me nauseous. I don't like the way I feel when I take them. Typically, that's because you're going too much too soon. And whenever the bottle says take 10 a day or take 4 a day or take 3 a day, never, ever start with that. Never start with the recommended dose. And I know that sounds a bit backwards, but you need to ease into it, especially if you are sensitive or you have a sensitive stomach. And I know I do. I never go into anything taking the full amount. Even these vitamin strips, I took 1 of each to start. And then the next day I took 1 of each in divided doses, and I made sure to really try it out that way. So don't ever go full on. And if you can, if it's only 1 capsule or 1 tablet, you may even be better off. Like what I've done before is I've just taken the capsule, I've dumped a little bit of it out, put it back, put the lid back on, and then taken it. Tablets, you can usually crush into halves. So try that first, and then slowly build up your tolerance, because if you go too much too soon, you'll never take that supplement again. It's going to go in your cupboard. It'll sit there for years, or it'll go in the garbage can. It's the same way if you try a vegetable for the first time and you hate it. Are you going to eat it again? Probably not. So don't set yourself up for failure. Always try to start slow and just ease your way into it a little bit. And again, that's why I go back to the multivitamins that are multiple capsules per day or tablets, because you have that ability to take just 1. You have that ability to take just 2, and then slowly work your way up. Same thing with, I get jittery when I take vitamins. If that happens, again, it could be too much too soon, or you could just be not agreeing with something in that product. And the other thing too is most companies and most health food stores, they have a guarantee where if it doesn't work for you, bring it back. Definitely do that. If you're finding it's not working for you, take it back. Say, hey, I got really nauseous on this, or I've got like bloating or something's going on. They will swap it out, but just don't give up because you've had a bad experience. Natural supplements, all of this, it is trial and error. There isn't one that works for everyone. What you and I are taking could make someone else very ill. Like, we don't know, right? So you have to just address it individually. The other one I get is, I can't remember to take them. Setting yourself up for success means something different to each person. For me, if they're hidden in the cupboard or in a drawer, if I don't see them, they're out of sight, out of mind. that's just the way I work. I know some people are really good with remembering and they're structured with that, but for me, I need to see them or at least have something that reminds me. You could have something like your little Monday to Friday thing that's on the counter in the bathroom. That works. So there's a couple of different methods too. So at this end, I'm just going to tell you about these other ways that you can store your supplements. So there's this like little container. You can just get something like this on Amazon where you put all the individual ones in here, you screw it to the area where you whichever one you want. So it's probably helpful to label, and then you can just shake it, take it, and go. This is good for traveling because it's hard to take everything with you. I like to take something like this. But the other little hack that I have is this. This is actually like a lunch bento box that you can buy on Amazon. So for me, I do have my multivitamins that I take it separately, but when I have my individual nutrients, micronutrients that I take, because as women too, we have different needs at different times of the month. And if I'm trying to fight off an illness or I'm having an adult beverage, there's certain things that I take at different times. And that's when something like this is handy because it's kind of all in one place. And what I do is I just label the top with what it is. And there's little dividers in there and I just have them all in there. And then I can just pick which one I need or what I want. It's made with good quality material, so there's no like BP or anything like that. And the other thing is that it seals so tight, so it's airtight, and it also prevents the light from coming in. And that's another thing to be really cautious of. So something like this is good, it's handy, but always keep it in a cabinet. You don't want the light to be exposed to your vitamins, particularly if you're taking like a fish oil or something like that. You need to make sure that you're preserving that in a low light situation or a cool environment. So this sort of checks all those boxes for me because I can leave it on, I just leave it on my bathroom counter. It doesn't look awful. And it reminds me every day, okay, and then I open my box and I get the things that I need and I carry on. So I don't know why I've decided that this is a good idea, but it really does work. And then it's like, there's not all these bottles on the table. It doesn't look like a cluttered mess. Other people like these little individualized ones where they're handy for traveling or to put in your purse. You can just load up whatever you're taking, throw it in your pocket. So there's so many different methods. Like this is just a few. What you have is another one, but there's a million different ways that you can figure out what works best for you and what works best for your brain. The other thing is setting like a timer on your phone. Reminders, that always works. Just at 8 a.m. Okay, I know I'm having my breakfast now, take my vitamins. And then it goes off again at 12, take my vitamins, goes off again at 6. So that's a helpful thing if you know that you're not good at remembering. I would suggest that. So the other one is, what are your thoughts on taking gummy vitamins? Gummy vitamins are, they seem to be everywhere now, and they're very high in, they're very tasty. Like they taste not bad, right? But there's a reason for that. It's because they're actually not putting much into that. They're typically skipping minerals because minerals in their powder form, they taste awful. They do. So they're removing as much of that as possible. They might be putting like 2 milligrams of zinc or something in there, but it's not enough. And then they're really skimping out on the other vitamins. You have to take a lot of those to get what you need. And again, the process of making a gummy, it can denature those delicate vitamins quite quickly. So what you think you're getting or what they're saying you're getting on the label may not in fact be that way. And then you're getting all this added sugar, these starches and fillers that aren't really that good. So I don't like this gummy thing too much, but if you're a person that's the only thing that you can possibly tolerate or get in your system, then fine. But I would never go straight to a gummy or recommend a gummy vitamin. And the other thing to mention too is to try to avoid taking supplements before you exercise. So that's a common mistake that people make, is they take a bunch of pills or they take their multivitamins and then they go do a workout. The bouncing around and the the sweating and all that, it really can cause some disruption, and it can cause like a bit of acid reflux, all of that. So just avoid taking them before like a vigorous activity or going for a run or anything like that. Yeah, so those were a few of the questions that I had. And I don't know if you had anything you wanted to mention there before I move on to the next thing here.
Yeah, that's great. I think the biggest thing once you commit to getting vitamins is remembering to take them, like you said. And that was hard for me. So I just always have my stuff in my lunchbox when I go to work. And when I'm not at work, I have my little Monday to Friday thing and I put it in plain sight.
Yeah.
And then I sometimes take them late, and I kind of have learned over time which ones not to take too late because they could give you energy, but better late than never for most of them. So yeah, that's great tips. Thank you.
Yeah. And so the next thing I was just going to mention a few that I, again, generally recommend, but I'm not saying this is 100% what everyone needs to do, but I often get asked the question, if you could pick like a handful of supplements, which ones would you choose? So in general, I do find, again, back to the multivitamin, but what I need to add in there is it needs to be multivitamin and mineral, so not just a vitamin. And again, some of these companies are producing vitamins, but they're neglecting to put the minerals in there. So making sure that you have both is very important. So that would be first and foremost. The omega-3 fatty acids, that's something that I highly recommend. And that's something that is also essential that we cannot get through our diet. And unfortunately, since for the last 100 years, the amount of omega-3 that's in our food is slowly decreasing. And if you're not, again, a person who eats grass-fed beef, pasture-raised chicken, pork, eggs, it's naturally found in those foods. Also wild salmon, wild fish, sardines. Sardines are loaded with good fats, but most people don't eat those. But if you're not eating that stuff, then you really aren't getting what you need through your food, likely. And the other thing is they call this like the N6 ratio. So back in the day, it used to be pretty even with the omega-6 to omega-3, and the omega-6 are the inflammatory fatty acids that are found in seed oils, canola oil, soybean oil, those types of oils and foods. Well, it used to be pretty even, and now they're saying it's around 26 to 4, I believe. So that's how much more omega-6 you're getting compared to the omega-3. And that's a problem because omega-3 is anti-inflammatory, omega-6 is inflammatory. So we're on this inflammatory roller coaster of too much processed food, too much refined sugar, carbohydrates, and now we're doing too many inflammatory fats, which is not good. So the omega-3 is there to hopefully balance that out a little bit more. And I would say, again, not one person that I've ever met has ingest enough omega-3 just through their food. So that would be one that I would highly recommend. But again, that's something that I don't recommend getting from the drugstore. Omega-3s are very delicate. They need to be sourced from a good quality source. So where you would source your wild salmon from, you also want to get a wild omega-3 if possible. We'll talk about that another day, a little bit more about the quality. But the other thing you can do is what I like as well as getting it through food. You can also incorporate chia seed, hemp seeds. These are good sources just from food that you can add daily. And these are such easy things to add in. Like you can put these in your smoothies, you can put them in your baking, you can sprinkle it on your salads. And they're not overpowering. I would say like hemp seeds I love because they're nutty, they're delicious. They can be used in a variety of different cooking methods. So I would say that would be the other one I would recommend. A good probiotic is definitely essential, especially if you're not eating a lot of fermented foods, which most of us don't. So that's like your sauerkraut and like fermented beverages. We just don't do that anymore. We don't prepare that food the way that we used to. So I would say supplementing with that is important. Again, those ones I showed you earlier would be a good thing to try. You can do powder, you can do liquid, you can do capsules. And also if anyone's ever taken antibiotics in their life, well, chances are that's wiped out a lot of your good bacteria, and no, yogurt does not cut it in terms of getting your the right amount of probiotics. And especially when you're having a fruit yogurt, I would not rely on that at all. So that would be something that I consider essential and something to incorporate. And a vitamin D supplement, especially they often in these research studies, they call out Alberta all the time. They're like, Alberta is one of the provinces where we lack it a lot in the winter months. Even though the sun is out, unless you're outside every day at noon and you're naked for 20 minutes, you are not ever going to get the vitamin D that you actually need to, the essential amount. And yeah, they call it naked at noon, but that's more achievable, I would say, in the summertime when you're having, you have less clothes on, you're going outside, but in the winter, we're not getting it. So a good quality vitamin D supplement, and that should always be taken with a fat. So vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. A good way to take it is with your omega-3. So I always pair those two together. It absorbs nicely. If you're not taking omega-3, take it with like a nut butter, coconut oil, something like that. Just make sure it's a little bit of a fat in there. And again, back to the greens powders, that would be something that I would highly suggest to most people, just because it's more of that, it's just an expanded multivitamin, I would say. And at the end of the day, if you choose that or a multivitamin, at least one of those, I would say that's a good place to start as well. So if you're taking a greens powder and you feel like that's just enough for now, that's okay. It's something and it's covering a lot of your bases, but having those two would be even better. And that's something that if it's doable, I would do it. And they're also, they add probiotics in there as well. They add probiotics, digestive enzymes, and some other key nutrients. So good ones to have overall.
Awesome. So much great information. And yeah, like she said, if you guys have taken antibiotics, like you need probiotics. And most of us have taken them. And the probiotics, that's great for your gut. It's great for your immune system. We can go into more details of the different like benefits of vitamins at a later time, because like we said, it would probably take many hours to go over everything, but those are kind of the key vitamins that you guys need. And over time, you will feel more energy, but like she said, give it some time. You're not going to see it like the next day, might not even be weeks or months, but as you get more of that vitamin in your body on a regular basis, you can feel more energy. You may have an increased immune system, better sleep, feel happier, all those kind of things, and have a better level of health and prevent issues down the road. So definitely you guys make sure you get some vitamins, because our food isn't as good as it used to be. So
no, it's not. Yeah. And I would say I could just close with a few tips too, that I think this would be helpful for a few people. I know that money is not always there and you can't always afford all these things, but there's a lot of things that you can do just with the food that you're buying to maximize your absorption of the nutrients. And I would say one tip that I really like is starting your day with like a warm cup of lemon water. And just, that's just literally a matter of getting a lemon, slicing it up, squeezing it into there. And it's a great way to just start the day. It has a very alkalizing effect on the body, which is helpful for many different aspects of your health, but it does just keep things, it's a good start to the day. And it also allows you to get that first cup of water in before you have your coffee, because I know a lot of us enjoy coffee. I like it as well, but I do try to start with something that's more alkalizing. And I know that we think, oh, lemon, how could that be alkalizing? It's very acidic, but actually as soon as you ingest it, it does wonders. It's really good for your liver. It's just has a bunch of different benefits, and it's a very low cost way to get a good solid foundation every day. The other thing is swapping your salt at home. We're very scared of salt these days, and we're actually getting, I think it's like half of what we used to, because people are terrified of it. But you shouldn't be scared of it if you're getting the right kind of salt. So the one that I do recommend is the Redmond real salt. This is pretty much the one I buy, but you can also get Himalayan salt. The only thing with Himalayan salt these days is there are some not so good ones out there, or I've heard that they're actually dyeing the salt pink just to make it look like Himalayan salt. So I know for a fact that this is the good stuff. And the nice thing about real salt or unrefined salt is it has trace minerals in it. So there's 84 different trace minerals in this salt, which can really help with maintaining that electrolyte balance in the body. And when you're having a good unrefined salt, it doesn't cause those effects of white table salt, white iodized salt, where you're getting the high blood pressure and all of those other negative things. It's because that salt's been stripped of all the minerals. So this is a good way to get those extra minerals, because we're all mineral deficient. That is just the fact. And this is a good way to add it into your food. It makes your food taste a lot better. So don't be shy, like definitely use salt. I would say that's a great way to up your mineral intake. It's not it's not going to fill in all the gaps, but it's a good way to start. If you want to take things a little extra, bone broth is an awesome way to get a lot of good nutrients. It's a very cost-effective way. It does take a little bit of time, but it's pretty easy once you get the hang of it. It's typically something I do more in the winter. In the summer, I'm just not into it quite as much, but it's also one of those things where you can buy it already made. You can get it in jars frozen. You can buy it in bags. You can buy powders. Powders are going to not be obviously as good as the one that you make at home. But again, they're coming out with a way to get everything nowadays. So there's no real excuse, but I would say that would be one to get, that it'll help to improve your gut health. It's going to give you those amino acids. It's going to give you the glutamine to help with that gut health, and also collagen, minerals, all that's good for the beauty of your skin and hair. So that would be my suggestion for that. And then in terms of just buying your food, don't be afraid to buy frozen vegetables. And especially when you're trying to eat something that's out of season, frozen's not a bad choice. An organic frozen vegetable is often more nutritious than the one that's coming on the truck all the way up to wherever we're living, because they pick it, they freeze it, it's flash frozen, the nutrients are in there. Some of them do, the nutrients do decrease over time, but it's not as fast as the fresh. And it's cost effective too. Like I said, you can just take out what you need in the freezer, you prepare it, and they're good to throw in like soups or stir fries. I know it's not the same as fresh, but it's a good way to get those extra micronutrients up. Another tip is just to shop more frequently versus buying in bulk, like, going to Costco once every 3 weeks, buying all your vegetables and putting them in the crisper. And it's weird how a lot of, I don't know if you've noticed, sometimes like they just don't go bad. And I'm like, hey, what's going on here? Like, what are they doing to these things? So, and again, it's like every day it's losing more nutrition. So if you can make the effort to go to the store, maybe a couple times a week, get the fresh stuff, if you can eat it, then wait and go replenish. That's a good way to do it. And just making sure that you're not overcooking them too much, like overcooking your vegetables, making sure that they're being stored properly in the fridge. That's another thing, is just know how to store your vegetables. And again, you can find all this stuff online of how the best way to preserve them and all that, but how you're storing them, how you're eating them. And also a lot of people like to meal prep and cut everything up on Sunday and like put it into all their containers. If that's the only way that you can make it happen, that's fine. But just be aware that when you do cut up your vegetable, it does start to oxidize. It does start to, again, those nutrients do decrease, and it can be, you will not be getting what you would have got if you left it whole and just cut it as you needed it. So yeah, I just wanted to give those couple little tips there, because at least if you're not buying a vitamin or you're not doing any of these things that we've talked about, these are some things just to keep on your radar when you are eating your food and preparing it, and different ways of, keeping the cost down, but getting the most bang for your buck, I would say. And the bottom line is, you are what you eat, and you cannot out supplement a bad diet. So if you're not having a good, well-balanced diet, none of these supplements are really going to do much for you. What we've talked about today is just enhancements to what we are assuming you're already doing is a well-balanced diet. But if that's not happening, then they're going to help, but you're going to need a lot more than what we've discussed today.
Thanks for all that information. I actually didn't know that about frozen vegetables.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's awesome. So yeah, thanks for your time. We're going to come back with more specific topics. You guys can give us your feedback and comment what topics you want soonest, but we were thinking about going over things specific to people who do a low carb or keto life, sleep, energy, stress, all those things, maybe ladies specific. Just let us know what you guys are looking for. Let us know if you have questions. Please comment. This will be on YouTube, so comment in the comments there or on the live. And then we'll also comment ourselves some information. So do find Ashley. I know it's hard to see here, but it's Ashley Pantry, one word, like a kitchen pantry. That's her stage name or whatever you want to call it, because she knows all about the pantry and every single ingredient. And I will pin the video that we did last time about why ingredients matter in general, but it was keto specific too, but in general, ingredients matter. So you're an absolute wealth of information. I appreciate your time and all the information you've given us and the community. We all love it.
It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, and I look forward to coming on again, and we'll definitely dive into some more topics with this. But you're right, what she had mentioned, the Ashley Pantry handle on Instagram, that's the best way to find me. And for any of the listeners, if you do have any pressing questions or something just sparked your interest with what we talked about and you just want to shoot me a message, by all means, send me a message on Instagram. I'll get back to you, and we can talk. But any updates with what's going on with me will be on there as well. There's some new things coming out soon, so just keep up with me there. And I always post recipes and different tips and ideas for how to navigate a healthy lifestyle without spending too much money and without spending too much time in the kitchen. So that's kind of what I'm all about, and just healthy food swaps. So thank you again for having me on, and we will connect again soon on here.
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.
All right.
Bye-bye.